Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Beyond the Bells, the Ring of Honor Women's Championship Tournament recap and analysis show on Women's Division Wednesday. This week, we have kicked off our quarterfinal matches in the Quest for Gold tournament to crown a new Women's World Champion, so we have lots to discuss. I'm your host, Alyssa Marino. Joining me again this week, our guest expert analyst, multi-time women's champion, professional badass, Lufisto, and the First Lady of Professional Wrestling Board of Directors member, Maria Kanellis-Bennett. How are you both doing?
Wonderful.
Well, I think we definitely... What was that, Lufisto?
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Oh, no.
I know. We're going to get to the reasons for Lufisto's disappointment. She was a very proud wrestle mom, and we'll be getting to that. But I think before we go any further, we should bring in one of the voices in the Quest for Gold that we've heard on commentary, the hot mess herself, Chelsea Green.
Oh, no, I'm that is everywhere.
Chelsea knows how to make an entrance, that's for sure.
I was waiting for my time to shine. That was it.
You do nothing but shine, and that is absolutely certain, just based on the weekend alone. So, we were talking about, obviously we're going to be discussing the tournament matches that we've seen, but I think it'd be really cool to start this episode of Beyond the Bells with a very special guest. This man has been a wrestler, a teacher, a trainer, a producer. The list goes on. Let's bring on none other than Lance Storm.
Hello.
Yay! Hello there.
Hello. My list of accolades gets longer as I get older.
It's like a fine wine, and I think does this feel a little bit like a sort of a reunion of sorts on this show?
Yeah, there's a few familiar faces. I've done some teaching and some training with both Chelsea and Maria.
Mm-hmm, certainly, and obviously your career both in the ring and out has spanned across years, multiple promotions, and you talk about your history with Maria. Can you tell us a little bit about your time training the women at OVW?
That was a lot of fun. It would have been 04 and 05, and it was also a confusing time because what they wanted out of their women kept changing. There was we want models, charismatic, beautiful women. It's like, okay, great. But it's like, they didn't really care if they could wrestle, and they'd hire people. And then 2 weeks later, they'd want them all to wrestle. It's like, it's not really what they were hired for. And you had to try to give these women as much of a background and knowledge as you could so that whatever they were asked to do the next week, they would be as prepared as they could be. Because sometimes they'd be hired to be wrestlers and then they'd be told they have to be a model. And sometimes they were hired as models and then told to be wrestlers. So it was crazy. And thankfully, there was a fairly small nucleus of girls. There was only, I think, when I first got there, 3 women under contract. But there ended up being about as many as 8 women that I was training and working with for a bit. So it got a chance to be really hands-on and try to, be a bit of a small family and really try to at least get everybody where they needed to be so they could at least have a shot at success.
And speaking of kind of that family sort of environment, you ended up launching your own school, Storm Wrestling Academy, in, I believe, 05. And just over the years, your students, like Chelsea, like Tennille Dashwood, Rachel Ellering, Peyton Royce, so many, many more, they've ended up traveling the world and doing some amazing things. So kind of with everything that's been going on, what's really the status of SWA at this time?
It only exists in a virtual form, in that I do some coaching via Zoom virtually. But the school itself, I shut down the end of 2019, I guess, when I went back to WWE as a producer, up until the world shut down. And I was one of the initial releases that came with COVID. But the physical school is gone. I don't plan on reopening. It was just such a huge task to do. So I enjoy the virtual stuff when I get the chance. It's something that I used to do when I was a producer and when I wasn't, where people would send me, matches and I just offer them feedback just, because I enjoy it and it helps everybody out. So now as a very part-time job, I do virtual coaching.
Okay, so I was just thinking about this as you were talking. I was just with Christian Cage last night, and he told me a funny story about how no matter where you were in America, when you were in the car with the guys, you always knew how far the closest Cracker Barrel was. Is that true?
Yes, I traveled with the foldable Cracker Barrel map.
That's what he was saying. And he said, no matter what, you could ask Lance, okay, so what are we doing tomorrow? And you would be like, 200 miles away is the closest Cracker Barrel. We can make it there by 10.
Yes, I knew the interstates. I knew the exits. It's like I had stuff planned out. That was my thing.
I wonder if it's a Canadian thing, because we would do the exact same things. Like, oh, we're wrestling there. Where's the Cracker Barrel on the way? And then we would. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, Christian actually had the foldable sheet that had all the Gold's gyms on it. So he was in charge of finding the gym. I found us the meals.
It's balance, you know? Well, and Chelsea, I'm glad that you mentioned kind of funny stories. And I was actually curious, was Chelsea a good student at SWA?
She was, although she threw me for a loop the first day, in that when she applied, she sent a couple of photos and information, and she was a brunette. And, you've got 18 new students coming in, and I'm trying to put face's name, and then this blonde walks in, and I'm like, who is this woman? Because it just did not look like the same person. And she's done that a few times where she just completely changes her look, and you have to double take, and it's like, oh, hey, Chels.
I think in like the last maybe week or two, I did it again where I went back to brunette, and I showed up, and because it's a class full of males, everyone's like, wait, what? Like as females, we're all used to it, but all the guys are like, what the hell?
Yeah, 30 years of my career, other than shaving my head, I haven't changed at all. So you did it daily.
You look
almost
exactly the same. You haven't aged, so.
I have to say that that time when we were at OVW was crazy, because some of us were on the road and then coming in for a day or two, and we would just try and suck up as much knowledge as we could. But you were always very patient with us. And if we had a question, you always answered. And I appreciate that greatly, because coming from what I did as a modeling background and just trying to stay safe out there and keep the people I was in the ring with safe, was a challenge. But you did a fantastic job of teaching us the basics and keeping us on the road and keeping us with our jobs. So thank you for that very much. But yeah, I can't imagine what that must have been like to be told, like, oh, we're going to have this new girl coming in. Oh, we need them to do this right now. Oh, we're going to switch it up on you. And that was weekly. It really was at that time. But I do have very fond memories of those women that were down there at the same time I was. Melina and Mickey was down there, and Angelina was down there for a short period of time as well. So, I mean, those memories are fantastic. And I have to say that just having those basics is what got me through, especially those first few matches.
Yeah, because you were really thrown to the wolves, because you came off the Diva Search, and it's like, she's like green as green can be. And it's like, oh, no. But she's still going up to TV. And it's like, so she was really thrown to the wolves. And it was, you had to learn the 3 or 4 things you needed for TV that day.
Yeah.
And then it's like, they rush you back down to me. And it's like, I try to give you a bit of a foundation, and then they run you back up to TV, where at least now most women that go through the system at least get to train for a while first. But you were just right up, and it's like trying to learn while doing the job. And it's like, and to be fair, they threw you in way over your head, and you survived, and managed to get over and succeed. But it really was like throw you in the deep end, and it's like, well, maybe occasionally give you a life preserver.
Yeah, it was wild. It really was wild. But over the years, you've had such fantastic success stories. What do you think it is about certain people that just seem to stick with it and rise to the top, because some of your talent has been incredible.
I don't know. I like to think that when you give people a good foundation, and I think too, also don't lie to them.
Yeah.
Like I make people know right up. It's like, there's going to be a lot of BS you're going to have to put up with. And it's like, don't try to sugarcoat it. So this is going to be great. It's like, you're going to run into a wall. And I've had to, and again, I don't specifically remember with Chelsea. I probably have. There's been a lot of students that, you get that phone call or that text, and it's like, you have to talk them off the ledge, because it's like,
you talked me off plenty of ledges.
Oh, right. The Tough Enough run. That's right. I had several of those, but everyone has to go through that. But if you're new to the business, you don't realize it. Mm-hmm. And it can be really daunting and overwhelming that you just think everyone's dumping on you all of a sudden. But if you tell them ahead of time, it's like, this is coming. It's going, it will be all right. Everyone's had this. And just give them that chance and talk them up and, get them through it, get them off the ledge, and realize that the next day is another day. Because in wrestling in particular, a lot of the places, the wind always changes. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like the headwind's too strong, it's like, just buckle down and stay with there. It'll change direction eventually. And I think that really helps. And if you aren't told initially that this isn't going to be easy, there'll be days that it's just, everything's going my way, I'm the greatest, I'm going to be a star. And it's like 10 minutes later, it can be a brick wall in front of you. Mm-hmm. And you just have to prepare people for that.
Yeah. As a teacher, did you find it a little bit either challenging or frustrating when you had that moment where they said, we really want this girl, but you knew deep down that she was not ready, but she had to be ready? How did you deal with that? And what was your plan of action, I would say, to make sure that you would give them what they want, but in the back of your head, you knew that might not be the best idea?
Well, I think, again, it comes back to giving a foundation that I really believe that if you know how to work and can at least get through, that you can survive almost anything. Mm-hmm. And there's been a few cases where, they get called up to that next big stage, and it's like, they're going to go out. And there was a few women that were NXT that I was, again, virtually coaching. They weren't even part of SWA. That, the first time that NXT's got 15,000 people, and they're just like, their mind's about to blow. And it's like, you're good at what you do. If you can do a good match in front of 150 people, you can do it in front of 15,000. It's the same job. Don't let it mess with your head. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's easier with the 15,000 people because you're going to get a reaction, and it's more fun and it hurts less. Mm-hmm. But unless you've been out in front of 10,000, again, poor Chelsea with her physical therapist for Daniel Bryan, she was so green and young, and she's thrown on Raw, and it's like, just calm down.
I don't think I had ever held a microphone. Like that should not have happened, but that happens all the time, especially to females.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. One thing I do really like about your training is I like at the very end, on the last day, when you sit everybody down and there's no BS, and you tell everybody, like, maybe this isn't for you, or if you want to try, like, this is the path you're going to have to take. You're going to have to work 10 times harder than you're working now. And you give everyone very honest feedback. And I feel like in the wrestling business, that is not often given, and everything is sugar coated or spun in some sort of different way where you really don't know what critiques you're getting. But that's the good thing about SWA is, like, people are coming to you for honest feedback, and that's what you're giving them.
Yeah, I always, because I throughout the years, I've had people, if I sent you a match, give me feedback. I'm like, okay, but realize I'm going to tell you what I really think.
Yeah.
And I try not to be mean about it, but it's like, I do believe you need to hear the truth. And it's not even wrestling, because I remember it was an indie show up here where Mike and Maria were on before they got married. And they asked some marriage advice, because I was married 3 years into the business. Well, 4 years into the business. We were together, 2.5 years into the business. And I survived that 20 years and was still married. And that's valuable experience and knowledge. It's like, how do you survive that? Because so many don't. And it's like, I remember we sat down and it's like, these are the things I think is important. And it's like, hopefully it will help you. And it's like, honesty is going to be far more useful than getting told what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Well, and the issue with a lot of people now is that they're not giving honest feedback. So then when they get somewhere like a big machine like WWE and they're only hearing the negative, that really breaks people down, right? And it's just the fact that there's 100 and some odd wrestlers in developmental. They can only give so much feedback. They're going to say, just quickly change this. This is what you need to change, move on and work on that. And that seems so negative and comes down so hard on people. But because you trained in a no BS type of way, I was like, okay, well, I got to go fix that. And then I'll come back and do it again. But a lot of people, I saw it really weigh on people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just, again, give people the tools they need. And that's where I try to let everybody know before they leave my door. It's like, you're going to get told a lot of things. They're going to be contradictory. Sometimes they're going to be what you want to hear. Sometimes they're not. And that's something too, that I think down in your core, you do have to have a belief in yourself.
Yep.
And if someone's just giving you heaps and heaps of negative, it's like, listen to it, but don't take it too deep down in your heart and let it crush you. It's like, listen to it. Some of it might be good, but don't let it crush you. And the same with someone's just telling you the greatest thing in the world. It's like, okay, that's great. It's a nice boost, but don't let it go to your head and think that all of it's true, because it's not.
No.
Everyone's not. There's no one that's perfect and there's no one that's completely unsalvageable. Everyone's in the middle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And take a bit of the negative, take a bit of the positive, and just keep your head above water.
Yeah.
Was it the way you were trained, or it's something you feel was lacking in your training, so you decided that there would be no BS and you would say like everything?
I was trained so long ago, 1990, but it was just like 8 weeks and we're done and it's just go work. Like it was more, we didn't get an abundance of information.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Jericho and I and 10 or 11 other people that really had very little hope. So Chris and I got a lot of positive feedback because we were the two that had a shot.
Yeah.
But it was also, and he and I kept each other honest because standards were pretty low at the indies we were working. So very early on, we were moving up the card and it's like, these guys are great. And it's like, we had to remind ourselves that we're great in like the smallest pond there is. There's a lot of big lakes and oceans ahead. We have to keep pushing ourselves. And I think that's what helped us, in that Jericho saw things in me that I did better than him. And I saw the things that he did that were better than me. So we constantly both had that drive to, I have to get better, because Chris is way more charismatic and a way better promo than me. And Jericho would be like, I need to get better because Lance is a better athlete than me. And he's a little more technically sound than me. So we both had strengths, we both had weaknesses, but we saw each other's strengths and we saw our own weaknesses. So we kept pushing each other, which really helped. But we got there wasn't getting match feedback. It's like, we got our 8 weeks we sent out there, and it's like, you were lucky if one of the veterans would watch a match and give you feedback.
So what do you think of the current state of women's wrestling? Because there's just so much out there.
Well, that's the thing, in that I think now more than anything, it's a lot like the men's, in that there's a lot of really good and there's a lot of really bad and there's a lot of in the middle. Mm-hmm. Because finally, I would say probably now better than ever before, there actually is a legitimate body of work for women. Mm-hmm. Where, when I was a fan, it's like, okay, there's Sensational Sherry and Medusa Michelli, and that's it. And then when I broke in, it's like, there might be one woman in a territory, and it's like, she's just going to be a valet because there's no one to work with. Mm-hmm. Where now there's legitimate divisions everywhere. There's actually companies that just have women in them. Mm-hmm. So there's a wide body of work, which allows women to be much better, because you're only going to get better if you work with different people and people that are better than you. Mm-hmm. So there's finally a situation where women have a chance to actually find places to work and achieve and do what they want, but not, again, to not sugarcoat things. There's some terrible women's wrestling and there's some great women's wrestling, but there's absolute dirt worst crap men's wrestling too.
Yeah.
But that's just when you get enough people in the industry, you're going to have all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing though that I wish there was a little bit more of, and I think Maria's doing it. It's the women's wrestling is great, but not every woman has to be a wrestler.
Yes.
And I think there's a point where sometimes they will look down on the woman that's the valet or the manager, but it's like no one ever looked down on Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously. No one looked down on Jim Cornette or Bobby Heenan. They had certain skills that worked in a certain way. And I think if the woman's a great wrestler, then have her be a great wrestler. But if she's a great manager or valet, it's like, have her be that. Like Dawn Marie brought so much value to me in ECW.
Mm-hmm.
But she wasn't a wrestler. She was far better suited in that valet role, and she was great at it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sticking to that time frame. But like Trish Stratus was a phenomenal wrestler. Like she worked real hard. It's like, then let her be that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we get some of the, as I mentioned, the poorer women's wrestling and the better women's wrestling. It's like some of the women that are either forced to wrestle or they want to because they don't want to be a valet or a manager. It's like, but you can contribute a lot in that role.
Yeah, I agree.
And
it's a lost art because everybody wants to be a wrestler, but like a key manager, and they're so rare right now, but they bring so much when there's one. But I feel there's not as many, but there should be more.
yeah, and I think it's just, again, it's whether it's art, whether it's entertainment, whatever you want to call what it is we do, everyone has different strengths, and it's like finding the strength and what's the best way of getting this woman or this man over and being an asset and value to the company. And if it is as a valet, great. If it's as a world champion, great. If it's as a manager, great. If it's a, you know, the GM character, it's like whatever it is, accent your strengths. Like AJ Lee, when she was, you know, the big deal in WWE, it's like she was more in a managerial speaking role, but it's like she was a legitimate numbers mover and was excellent.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, great, feature her.
Mm-hmm.
And when, you know, when Becky Lynch took off, it's like she's main event segments and she's like the biggest thing in the business. It's like, great. And it's just allow women, anyone in the business, but women, since that's a topic we're on, it's like, find their strengths, push their strengths. And it's like, if they get over enough, it's like main event them as your world champion. It's like, there's no reason why the women's world champion can't be as valuable as the men's world champion. But if in those instances, the men's world champion is better, then main event with him. But don't go in with that preconceived notion that it's the women's wrestling. It's like, well, you know what I mean? And, you know, TNA back when their knockouts first started, it's like they were some of the most successful, biggest drawing segments they have. You've got Angelina Love in Ring of Honor now. It's like the beautiful people were like a legitimate main event draw for that company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you strike fire or magic, it's like, just go. It's like, if it's on fire, throw the gas, let's make money. And it's like, use everyone in the role they should be. And if you want to be a wrestler, it's like, okay, but, and my buddy Don Callis is a good example. It's like, he wanted to be a wrestler, but as soon as he realized he could be of more value as a speaking manager, he's like, I just want to be a star and be over and make money. It's like, well, go do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a case of the business became more athletic, and he was a more 70s, 80s style wrestler of, you know, the talking and the storytelling. And it's like, he didn't excel and stand out in that manner. So he found how he could stand out. And I think the audience and the office and the talent should all accept that with women as well, in that, what are their strengths? Because they can be a very valuable part of any company if you just give them the opportunity to, and look for the strengths, not just the weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Because
one of the things, one of my philosophies about this is I want women to main event, but I don't want it to be given to them. I want it to be earned. And I know that that will never be my strong suit as far as wrestling, but for the women that can do it, I want them to have respect while doing it and not just be, okay, well, you're going to have this, you know, it should be because they are the very best. and in that position because they are the very best. And the very best women's wrestlers in the world do not want to be given anything. They want to earn it. They want to be respected. Give me 1 second. I have to grab my charger.
But that's a very valid point in that when it becomes we're main eventing women because main eventing women is what we're supposed to do, then it really doesn't have the value and the accomplishment to it.
You know what's funny is that I was just on an indie show with Jordan Grace, and right before we went out was this banger of a match with Colt Cabana. And Jordan and I looked at each other and we were both like, as much as we loved that we were chosen for this spot, we are more than happy stepping down, because I think that match that was just on that had 101 falsies and they bit on everyone is a main event match. And we should have been before that. We should have been warming up the crowd for that. And both of us totally agreed with that. Sometimes, like that's the thing. I'm more than happy earning that spot. But when I'm just handed it, I'm kind of like, I don't need this. I'm okay. I'm okay not taking that spot. I'm okay not fulfilling that role right now because that's not where I'm at. But it's because we're in this like strange time where we are seeing women main event major pay-per-views or get these crazy main event opportunities. There are some times when we're put in those positions that I just don't think we necessarily need to be in. So it's this weird like balance that I think people are trying to figure out.
But I think that's great because you want the accomplishment. You're not just looking for the trophy without it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because if you want what you do to have value, you not only have to make the accomplishment and then you're deserving of the trophy. And there's many instances over the last, again, the Bailey Sasha in Brooklyn or whatever it was. It's like that could have main evented any show anywhere ever. It's like it was that good. Mm-hmm. And it's like you can't deny it. And it's like that's something I'm quite sure they take a lot of pride in. But like you say, if it's like on that night that other match was better, it's like they deserved it.
And that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally okay. Like we know what? All of us are all for equality, but like that's the thing, it's equality, right? So then there are times when they deserve that spot.
Exactly. And that's I think it's just when you have that mindset, you're going to be more apt to eventually actually deserve that spot because you're willing to wait until it actually is earned. And then it's going to mean more, and it'll mean more for other women further on, because there won't be those detractors. I keep going back to the Mickey Trish WrestleMania match. It wasn't the main event, but it's like I've watched that show, and from a storytelling standpoint, it's my favorite, and I think the best match on that show.
Yep.
Like they did a hell of a job. Like there was some better athletic wrestling in some of the other matches, but as an overall match, storytelling wrestling, I don't know what Mania it is, but that Trish and Mickey match, it's like, to me, that was the best match on the show, and I liked it the best.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's like fantastic. And it's like probably not every one of their matches was, but it's like give them their due when it's there because they were as good as anybody on that night.
I think we talk about it a lot on here. It's such an exciting time in the world of wrestling, in the world of women's wrestling. And obviously we're in the midst of the Women's World Championship tournament at Ring of Honor. And I was curious if you had checked out any of the competitors in the quest for gold, if anyone had caught your eye.
The biggest thing that surprised me actually was Nicole Savoy. I saw some of her Stardom stuff, and it's like she's completely changed her look. And it's like, I don't think if it actually didn't say on the screen Nicole Savoy, I would have been like, who is this woman? I'd watched her in Stardom because I used to watch a fair bit of Stardom when I had a lot of students there, and so I had seen her quite a bit. I think she was actually the Ring of Honor champ at the time, but it's like just a completely different look and presentation. It was just like, oh wow. Mm-hmm. And it's good to see. And I've always been an Angelina Love fan back from my OVW days, because she was one of, I think they sent like 8 or 10 women down to me for like 2 weeks with train these women and tell us, who we should hire. And they didn't even tell me who was showing up. There's just a bunch of women showed up. Anyone off the street could have came in. I would have trained over 2 weeks.
Maria, tell us what's on your mind because you're going like this.
Oh,
Well, she was there then.
I was there. It was insanity. I had never taken a bump in my life, and I just remember like not being able to move after that, and seeing Angelina Love, who I just was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. And at the time, she had these braids in her hair, so every time she would take a bump, you would hear the braids hitting, and I thought she was so cool. I don't think she's cool now, but back then I thought she was amazing. And I envied the fact that she was so athletic. And Michelle McCool was there,
Yes.
and she was so incredibly athletic too. And I had a dancer background, so everything I did was like this ballerina. Like, here I am. I was like, this is just not gonna work. I fell on I went to do a sunset flip, and I went over and I caught my chest, and so I landed on my chin, and I thought that was the end of my life. I thought that was it. Like, I was just gonna die right there. But it was. But I also knew doing it that week that no matter what, I wanted to be there, and that was the thing that I took away. Is even though I stuck out like a sore thumb compared to everybody else, I loved wrestling and I wanted to be there. And it took me this long to figure out what that actually was and what I wanted to be. But I knew I wanted to be involved in wrestling. And that was the big takeaway. And Angelina's awesome, just athleticism.
Yeah. And after that, I think it was 2 weeks. After that 2 weeks of training, I had to send in my evaluations and recommendations for everybody. I wish I had saved them. Although,
boy,
do you remember there was a tall blonde who was dating The Miz at the time? And I do remember what I said about her.
Yes, I remember her, but I don't remember her name.
I don't either. She was very tall, very pretty. She was a blonde. And I remember my review being, she is a very attractive, tall, blonde woman who's willing to be nearly naked on television to be a star. If that's what you're looking for, she's great. But that's about all else she brings to the table.
Oh, no.
I don't think she wanted to be a wrestler. She couldn't wrestle at time, but it's like she looked the part and was willing to strut around. And again, at that time, doing bra and panties matches were a thing. So it's like, if this is what you want, this is what she brings to the table. Mm-hmm. And that was...
That's the positive.
That was my honest opinion of her and what she brought. She was just looking for a reason to be on television. And it's like, that was my impression.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
That's that honesty. You gotta appreciate the honesty.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all your insight. It's so good to see you.
Great to see you too.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lance.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
What awesome insight, though. Oh my gosh, the stories alone.
I swear, I'm telling you, when I trained with him, the best days of training were the days that he spoke for the whole 3 to 4 hours, and we never actually stood up. Like, he has so many stories. We could be on here for 10 hours, and you know what I mean? He's just been through such a crazy lifetime of wrestling. It's amazing. And I love that he is he's such a perfect person for us to speak to, because he's got this amazing background in women's wrestling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just remember back then, whenever I would go to OVW, I always felt safe and I was really learning something, and that always stuck out to me. And when we asked him for marriage advice, I remember that. We were very concerned because all these couples at the time, now there's a million wrestling couples, but this is 10 years ago. And I just remember him telling us, you always call and you're always honest. And no matter what it is, even if it's hard, be honest. And that always stuck with us. And I just I look at Lance like a friend, because, from marriage advice to wrestling advice to even, Mike has worked with him so many times in Ring of Honor, and those are some of my favorite matches. It's just, he's a really, really good guy, and he's really taken care of women's wrestling.
Yeah, he has. And one thing that I will say about him is that he never judges. It doesn't matter what stupid question. I'm sure you asked so many dumb questions that now you're like, Maria, I didn't even know what a lockup was. When they said, we're going to learn lockups today, I went on my phone quickly and Googled pro wrestling lockup. That's how little I knew about wrestling when I decided to go and meet him and get in the ring. Not a damn thing. And he never judged me, ever.
Yeah, I knew a bit about wrestling because I was a fan, but I knew it from that side. So I had watched it since I was a little girl. So when I was first,
you were probably so much better than me.
I was excited when I met everyone. I was this weird fangirl, awful. And I was so awkward with everybody, but I just hit it with giggles and I don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank God I had that character, because everybody just thought I was stupid. And so I got away with so much. But Lance always knew better.
Yeah.
I was just playing along. He knew I was a huge fan of wrestling. And yeah, he helped me substantially. I don't think I would have lasted in WWE if it wasn't for him.
We are definitely glad that you're both here to tell the tales. And I do want to talk about, obviously we're coming hot off the heels of Glory by Honor, and we have started the quarterfinals of the Quest for Gold. And this weekend we saw the quarterfinal bout between Quinn McKay and Roxy. What did you all think of this match?
How Quinn was going toe-to-toe with Roxy. She was saying that she studies everybody, and you could see that she did her own work. Every time Roxy would go for a hold, she would counter. And I like how slow and methodical she was. And she was really trying to think where to go. The only thing I was a little bit scared before the match, actually, she was really on edge. It's like Quinn is sick and tired of being seen as just the backstage girl. And when Roxy, they kind of collide a little bit in the back, and it seems like she was I'm oh, Quinn has too much stress. But then as soon as her music started and she walked down, she was back to student of the game. And I know I want to be here, but I was concerned a little bit when I saw her backstage and being all frustrated at Roxy, who was that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
I definitely felt like there may have been a little bit of a misunderstanding there. So I think maybe to clear the air, it would help if we got Roxy here to talk about it with us. Hello, Roxy.
Hi.
Welcome to Beyond the Bells. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, thank you. We were just chatting about it. It seemed like there may have been a little bit of a disconnect between you and Quinn before your match. You were talking to Brian Zane backstage. What did you mean by wanting to face Quinn as opposed to Mandy in this quarterfinal match?
So yes, Brian did interview me post-match after I wrestled Sumi, and he asked me if I would rather face Quinn or Mandy in the quarterfinals. And I thought about it for a second, and I know Mandy has a bit of a past of, not trying to I'm trying to use the
Cheating, say it.
Yeah, not being fair.
Cheating. Okay, cheating. And I just thought
You're so sweet. You were
Trying to find the most diplomatic way to say it.
Cheating.
But yeah, Quinn doesn't cheat. So, and that's exactly what I meant. And as soon as Brian said that I'd rather face Quinn, Quinn took it completely different and was very upset. And I was like, wait, no, that's not what I meant at all. I promise. And then my music hit, and I was like, wait, I didn't get to. I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be bad.
Well, the two of you certainly hashed it out in the ring. And, I did see that at the end, you did exchange a handshake. Do you feel like you have a new level of respect for Quinn after that match?
Oh yeah, for sure. I honestly have always respected Quinn, and I say that because a lot of people do. I think mostly the allure has always been like, oh, well, she's an interviewer, she should stay that way. But I do know that Quinn started wrestling to be a wrestler, and then kind of fell into being an interviewer. So and she's like amazing at that. So I know that she can be just as amazing at wrestling if people would just give her a chance. And I saw that even before I wrestled her. And now that I did wrestle her, I feel like it's like, I'm sorry, Quinn, I had to beat you. I had to do it. But I know that match is just going to prove to everybody that like she does belong as a wrestler in Ring of Honor, not just an interviewer.
I agree. And also we have to think about the fact that if she kept up with you to that extent, could she keep up with Sumi to that extent? And that's huge for her, to as kind of a newcomer and as an underdog, to potentially be able to keep up with the entire division and the veterans of this industry. I think that's huge. I personally really, really enjoyed watching you two in the ring. And I think I told you that if I didn't, I'm telling you right now.
Yes.
I loved that matchup, and it was really hard to figure out who to cheer for in the best way possible. I loved it. It was great. So competitive. So like back and forth, you guys totally gave your all. And I feel like isn't this what the whole tournament is about? Like that's what we want to see.
And one thing that stood out for me, and when we talk about honor, and you show that when Quinn's knee buckled, you stayed there, you gave her the space, and you didn't like go right away and attack the knee. You went, completely different. Like any other wrestler, including me, would have gone on that knee and just
yeah.
Out of respect, out of honor, out of you just kept going without, focusing on that knee that she just injured jumping from like the up and over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like stuff like that, the way you carry yourself in the ring speaks to your background, your training? I know you've been training since you were 13. You've been under the tutelage of WWE Hall of Famer Booker T. I mean, what was that experience like, and how has that shaped you as the competitor you are now?
Well, I feel like starting off training really young, not many people took me serious at all. And I've been serious about becoming a wrestler since I could remember, since I was like 10 years old. And for some reason, I never doubted that it would happen. And I don't know if that sounds like, I don't mean it in a cocky way at all, but just for some reason, since I was a little girl, I was just always like, I can see it happening. Like, I know it's going to happen as long as I just keep working. I know that I can make it come into fruition, which is why, every time someone would kind of tell me, oh, you're too young. And there was, I would do local wrestling promotions, and they would, cut, my dark matches. And I remember, my family would show up, and my whole family was there, and they're like, hey, your dark match is cut because of this so-and-so reason. But I knew it was because I was, 15, 14. And it's okay, whatever. She's not that important. She's just a little girl. But, I used that as fuel. And, even training with Booker T, I had always wanted to train at Reality of Wrestling. And then I won their Diamond Division Championship when I was 18 years old. And which is crazy to me because when I was younger, I always said that I would start my training when I turned 18 at Reality of Wrestling. But then I won the championship at 18, which is so crazy. But it just moments like that just always fueled me. I was I've been able to make this happen just because I believed in myself, which I think is the most important part. And now I was the first match to bring back the women's division, the Ring of Honor women's division, the first ticket to gold, and all of this is just so crazy to me because I'm I kind of have to stop and like just be like, wait, like this is real. Like this is all happening. Like all this stuff you kind of dreamed of happening when you were like 10 years old, but it's like it's real right now. It's like actually happening.
I hope you've been journaling and like keeping track of all this and, you know, taking time to kind of.
I actually do journal.
Oh, good.
I do, yeah.
Make sure you're getting the gravity of this situation. And you said first ticket to gold, first match to reintroduce the women's division, and now the first competitor to advance to the semifinals. It's incredible stuff you're doing. But speaking of the semifinals, I'm curious now because we don't know if we're going to be seeing you face Maxine Impaler or Angelina Love. And I'm curious, what do you think is going to be your strategy going against a monster or going against a highly decorated veteran like Angelina?
I honestly feel like this is the most, I don't want to say stressed, but it's pretty scary. I mean, like you have Max, and I tagged with her the first match that brought back the women's division, and she used me as a human weapon. So yeah.
So you know the potential there.
Yeah.
The thing I love so much about that match is you didn't even look at her.
I didn't think
You avoided looking at Max until the last moment, the last possible moment. You didn't look at them.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'm pretty sure I've seen her in my nightmares. I'm pretty sure. But I don't know. I think just the thing about like the name Prodigy is just that like I have been training since I was 13, and I have been under the learning tree of like so many knowledgeable people in wrestling that like I kind of have like a little bit of like every wrestling style, and I have a lot of tricks under my sleeve that not many people know. So even though I'm like very young, like I feel like I don't know everything yet, but I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable. So yeah, I kind of just like once I'm in the ring, it's just like things just come to me, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. It's kind of hard for me to. I do study my opponents, so that helps. Yeah, going into it, I never really have like a set strategy, but once I'm in there, I'm like, okay.
Is the name Prodigy something that helps you or sometimes give you so much pressure because you know you're the prodigy, so you know you have to go out there, and do you feel you can't have a bad night? Is it like some sort of pressure to have that nickname?
I think at first, yes, a lot, because I didn't like choose that name. I'm not like self-proclaimed prodigy, but the fans actually ended up chanting that at one show, and I was known as like the 16-year-old sensation and the 17-year-old sensation, and then I was like, okay, I can't just do that forever.
The 45-year-old sensation.
I was like, but then the fans ended up like chanting that at a show, and I was like, wait, what did they say? And at first I didn't catch it, and then someone told me that they were chanting Prodigy, and I was like, oh, like I could use that. And at first it was kind of like, okay, I started using the name, and it was like, okay, it was pressure, because I was like, I have to kind of like live up to the fans, like what the fans think of me. And I was like, okay. But I think after a while, I think just things happening, like me like winning the Diamonds title and me beating Sumi Sakai, like what? Like I think that these things actually like helped me. And I remember there was this one time, there was this wrestler, and we were at a local wrestling show, and I was about to come out like during my entrance, and he could tell that I was really nervous. And he came up to me, and he's like, hey, like you look pretty nervous. He's like, let me give you some advice. Like right before you walk through that curtain, you have to like close your eyes and just tell yourself like, I'm Roxy, I'm the prodigy, like I got this, no one is me, no one can do it like the way I do it, so I'm just gonna go out there and be the prodigy. And I was like, okay. So literally before my matches, I tell myself that. I'm like, okay, breathe, I'm the prodigy. I'm Roxy. Like, I got it. And it helps.
It served you well so far in this tournament.
It definitely did.
Yeah, for sure. Well, honestly, Roxy, now, whether it's going to be Max or it's going to be Angelina, we obviously wish you the very best of luck as you're continuing on in the quest for gold.
Thank you so much.
We're rooting for you.
Thank you.
We'll see you later, Roxy.
Bye.
Is she not the cutest?
No.
The fact that she didn't want to say that the allure cheats. She didn't even, she was so diplomatic. Like, what a doll. Okay.
So sweet.
Just give her 10 more years. 10 more years. And she'll be like, they cheat, they lie, and they steal.
No fear. She's telling how it is. Well, that was not the only quarterfinal match that we saw over the weekend. And Chelsea Green, you were actually on commentary with Lenny Leonard and Ian Riccaboni for Miranda Alize versus Nicole Savoy. LuFisto, I know, hold back your tears.
I think I'm mad more than I'm.
We did think that Nicole had a huge shot at winning this. So, I mean, I think it wasn't just a letdown for you and I. It was a letdown for a lot of people watching that just have so much time and love invested into Nicole and her journey and her story. You know, people love Miranda.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like people, like there's so many of these women in this tournament that people love, but there's this journey and this story that we keep going back to with Nicole that we were invested in.
Well, one of the things I noticed too, and obviously Nicole's story is far from over and she is going to continue leaps and bounds, kind of cementing who she is. But one of the things I noticed was when they had a video of her before the match that was playing, and she was talking about her history with Miranda, and she seemed to be very emotional talking about that. And I was wondering if that may have had some kind of factor in her mindset during that match.
Right from the start, when I saw that video, I'm like, no, get out, do something, get out of there. I was like, she's not in the right frame of mind. I'm like, no. Like, I knew right from the start, she was like, I felt she was down and not confident. I was like, that's not my Nicole. What's going on? And then when her music started and she was going out, I was like, okay, she's back. Yeah. And then back in the ring, I felt like some spark, something was missing. And I was like, what's going on, Nicole? What's going on in your head? I'm like, did Miranda get in your head that bad? And I'm like, I was getting pissed because it's like, Nicole can reverse anything. And Miranda would go for a head scissor. She would not even lock her legs and Nicole would fall. I'm like, what's going on, Nicole? I'm like, you have this, like, you got this. And I was like, I didn't understand what was going on in her head. And that I was like, how can Miranda go? She did the same with Alex Gracia. Like, you're my friend, but we're not friend. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, there's mind games playing here. And at the end, I understood everything. Nicole went to give her a hug and she went like, no, this is my time move. I'm like, oh, I see you. You're not
a talker, yeah.
No. Stop playing now. That's a game. I see it. I'm like, girls, stop thinking she's your friend. She's in there for her. And that was clear at the end. And she played you all, and she's going into the next round, and you guys are not. And I was like, Nicole, I'm going to beat the crap out of you if I have to. So you're back on track. But I was like, no. Stop. Like, I see what's going on with her. Wake up, girls.
Mama Luffy bringing the seriosity. It's not a real word, but you know. But okay. But another thing too is
just so you know, that's your word. Seriosity.
Seriosity. Here it is.
I love that word. I think
that's a nice word.
It's that clash of styles. It's that two different styles, and the way that Miranda moves around the ring, and just her little expressions in between everything, and her little like, oh, are you gonna come? Are you? Oh, I've seen it a couple of times now too. And even though, I think with Alex, it was good intentions of being a friend. At the same time, there's this driving force underneath there. It's a woman that's been training and been working for a long time now. And she has one goal in mind. And I think more than just a title, it's to prove to herself that all that time wasn't wasted. And so I'm curious to see what happens in the next round.
Well, and speaking of the next round, we talked about Alize having a history with both Alex Gracia and Nicole Savoy that she had to kind of put aside so that she could handle business. Do you feel like the possibility of facing an opponent with whom she doesn't really share a connection could be a benefit or a detriment in her performance in the next round?
At this point,
get in her head.
That's the thing. At this point, it's proven to be a benefit that she's had some sort of connection with these people. And she hasn't fully gone off the deep end of turning into a bad guy, but she's very close. She is towing the line and crossing it and coming back and crossing it. And I just wonder what is going to happen moving forward. Is she going to jump, both feet in? I kind of think she might. I'm going to throw it out there. That is going to be my prediction, is that she turns full evil.
Putting the baddie in Lucha Baddie?
Yes.
Baddie. Well, she's either going to go against the Chess Nation, which I love that nickname for Trisha Doyle, or Hey Blade, AK that don't play. So I'm like, there's two big challenges there. You got someone who's extremely technical who can ground her, and AK who can ground and pound and stretch and beat and everything. So, I mean, either
and
or.
two people who are so strong mentally. Yes. For different reasons, they have their own stories and their own backgrounds that make them so mentally sound and untouchable that maybe this is the perfect matchup either way for us to see. I'm honestly sick of the trash talk, and I want it to totally not affect whoever she takes on, and let's see what happens then to Miranda.
Very true. So Miranda has faced Trish Adora in the past here on Women's Division Wednesday. She beat Trish Adora, and then she also was victorious with Sumi Sakai against Adora and Maserati, but she has never been in the ring, as far as I know, with Allison Kay. So I'm very curious to see how either one of those matches could end up. And did anyone else notice? I don't know if this was a new addition, but Miranda Alize came out with a crown on her head.
Crown, yep.
Yes.
Sending some kind of message.
The confidence is turning into arrogance. I'm telling you.
I agree. She's got a bit of a Disney villain thing going on.
Well, we are definitely going to be curious to see what happens in the next week. Yes. But, usually here, I know Maria's so good at being neutral and just not. We appreciate it. But we do here on Beyond the Bells, we like to touch on a bit of news because we just had Maserati in action at FSW by GCW, the Battle of Las Vegas, just over the weekend. And just so much in the way of news. I'm going to give you guys a couple headlines. So we have Deonna Purrazzo retaining the Knockouts Championship and becoming Reina de Reinas champion at Triple Mania on August 14th. Huge. More huge news on the forefront. Empower, NWA's first all-women's pay-per-view, is coming this weekend. And the National Wrestling Alliance acquired Mildred Burke's title belt to celebrate the event, to celebrate the Trailblazer, and the title will be on display during Empower. It's all going down on August 28th, just ahead of NWA 73. It'll feature Chelsea Green, hello, and two Quest for Gold competitors, Marty Bell and Allison Kay, as the Hex in Tag Team Tournament action, plus so many more talents from across the entire industry. I got to ask, Chelsea, how are you feeling just gearing up for a historic event?
I'm nervous. I'm excited. I feel like I say this, there's just so many new opportunities that are being thrown at me. And I just want to make sure that I am giving as much as I can to the people that have put this trust and faith in me. And that's where my head is at going into every kind of new situation that I've been thrown this year. Oh my gosh, it's really blowing, and I'm so grateful and thankful for all these opportunities, but it's a lot of pressure, and I want to make sure that that I'm ready. So, mentally I'm just trying to prepare for everything.
Between Camille and Layla Hirsch, who's your pick?
I mean, okay, look, for me, I'm just going off of stature alone. We are not talking a small difference. We are talking feet. The picture that you all have in your head, we are all thinking of it. Camille standing there in that AEW ring looking down on Layla. Now, granted, she's wearing heels, she's like puffing her chest and everything, but you guys, she's 2 feet taller. This is like insane. I know this, I know like the whole David and Goliath story, but I'm still gonna go with Goliath in this one.
I don't think that's a bad answer for sure. Well, continuing down our news, we have Allison Kay slated to defend her AAW Women's Championship against Jody Threat at AAW Destination Chicago on September 2nd. And the same day, Marty Bell has been announced for Championship Wrestling from Atlantis taping. Now, tournament alternate Lady Luck will be in action at Freelance Wrestling, defending her Freelance Underground Independent title at No Place Like Home on September 3rd in Illinois. And Danhausen will be challenging for the heavyweight title the same night. I think I got this all caught up for a little bit of time.
There is a lot of wrestling.
So much going on.
I appreciate you going down the list. That was amazing.
I barely scratched the surface. That's the crazy part.
That's what I was just going to say. You really did. It's amazing. I'm loving this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have more fun right around the corner, my friends. Death Before Dishonor is coming on Sunday, September 12th. And as you may have seen online, the location has been changed from Lakeland, Florida to Philadelphia. So we want to make sure that you are keeping up on all the latest news. If you're watching at home, be sure to follow Ring of Honor on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and The Experience on Facebook. But the action doesn't stop this weekend. We have more quarterfinal matches. Angelina Love taking on Max the Impaler with Amy Rose in their corner. And we will see Allison Kay facing the Afropunk Trish Adora. Does anyone want to chime in and say anything to our friends at home before we end this episode of Beyond the Bells?
I mean, I just have to say, like, I've gotten so much insight during this week. Like, I'm incredibly excited about everything moving forward. And the finals for the Quest for Gold will be at Death Before Dishonor. So, we're coming up on it. And I'm sure whoever makes it into the finals is going to be the most deserving, because this really has been an incredible tournament.
Yeah.
100%. Well, we want to thank all of our special guests. Be sure after you watch this weekend that you come back on Women's Division Wednesday, where we break it all down for you. For Lufisto, Chelsea Green, Maria Canales-Bennett, I'm Alyssa Marino, and we will see you next time on Beyond the Bells.
Thank you.